Okay, the end of the season for this bow has came and went, but now it's time to get it ready for next year. And this is an important time to show you what string and cable stretch does in relation to your cam lean, and also just kind of talk about cam lean in general. So cam lean is when the cam is slightly off center, whether it's that way or whether it's center or whether it's exactly the opposite. This can be for a lot of different reasons, honestly, and some lean is normal, regardless of your bow manufacturer. Some bow designs, some manufacturers' designs, they have limitations to how much that can be adjusted. So sometimes you have to tolerate more than other times, but I also want to talk with you about kind of the cause and effect. If you have a cam system that has a yoke is when the cable comes up and it splits into a Y. So that's what we refer to as a yoke. Now when the yoke splits, if one side is twisted in the direction of the twist, if one side's twisting more, it could be shorter, just like that finger is. Whereas if the other side doesn't have that equal amounts of twists, or honestly, if the cables are being pulled to the side, which happens on a compound bow, because our arrow can't shoot through our cables, right? So that's why we have this cable system being pulled to the side. And because of that pressure difference, it causes a slight pressure difference up here. So these two sides, the two Ys, can't be perfectly balanced, because if they're being pulled like this, you can see when my hand's straight up, this middle finger is longer. But if I pull it like this to the side, obviously it changes those lengths. So being able to adjust that is going to be really important, and it helps a few things. It can certainly help your bow's tune. You can adjust your yoke system or your cam lean to eliminate small left and right variations in your arrow flight. Definitely something a dealer should do if you don't know how to do that. And it certainly needs to be closer to the excessive side for that to have an impact like that. But again, being able to have that adjustment is important. So what's the big deal if my cam is slightly twisted one way or another? And this is a bow that got a lot of reps last year. It's been through rain, it's been through dry, it's been in air conditioning, it's been in heat, it's been in a camper. It's been through a lot. And so strings and cables are naturally going to settle. The wax is going to come out. They're naturally going to change a little bit, and just because they've changed some doesn't mean my strings and cables are bad. It just means I need to make a few twists here and there and take up that slack from having that load on there. So in this case, if you look at that top limb or top cam, you can see it's kind of tilted that direction. Okay, so if we naturally wanted to make an adjustment to that, and we're wanting this to straighten up, well, what you can do is kind of just lightly push on it and see where you need to go. Obviously, if it's going that way, I would like to straighten it up. And if I want to straighten it up, then if I want this cam to move that way, I need to make this limb go down and that other limb kind of go up. And you can see that that right there is moving that cam lean. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some twists to this side. Simple adjustment. I'll probably add 2 twists to that side, and that's just going to straighten that thing right up. It'll be easy. But what I'm going to show you is, since this is actually a little bit off right now, your cam lean does have an impact on when your bow is drawn back. This cable comes around this track, or technically the cam rotates around like this, and there's a stop on your cams where the cable will touch that, okay? Now, depending on your cam lean, you'll also have an impact on how securely your cable is contacting these cam stops sometimes. So with this particular cam, if you look at it, it's going that direction. And when you think of this cable being in here and it's going to come around that, it would only make sense that because that cam is tilted that way, once it comes around here, it's going to be very, very close to the inside of that cam. Whereas on the bottom is still in pretty good shape. It's a little bit off. It's a little bit off, but not as bad. So I'm going to put this in this machine quick and just draw this back so that you can see what I'm talking about and have a little bit better understanding on that cam lean and what it affects. So as I'm pulling this bow back, and honestly, safety-wise, I am going to put an arrow in there. You always should. Hang tight. If this goes off, I'm cool with it shooting the wall, but not cool with it blowing up the white beast. So as this bow is getting pulled back here, you can see this cable right here. This is the cable stop. So it's coming around, coming around, coming around. And if you follow that right there, we're stopping. Okay. So in that position right there, if you come around to the front, you'll notice that that cable is very close to the inside of the cam. It would be nice if it was in the dead center of that cam stop, and that's going to be achieved once we take that and we balance it up. Once we balance that cam lean, it's going to be able to track in the middle. Now, some people ask, do I pay attention to cam lean at rest or at full draw? Because as you draw that bow back, a lot of different things change, a lot of different pressures change, and you honestly have some natural hand positioning to factor in too. I personally pay the most attention to my cam lean and my cam positioning when the bow's at full draw. Right now it's at full draw, and honestly when I'm back here looking at it, I can see from the back, and if I was a shooter, I would see that my cam's slightly leaning. And in that case, as that string is going to get fed back into essentially that pulley system, if it's going right down the middle, it's going to have the least amount of friction, the most amount of repeatability. It's going to have less oscillation or honestly like grinding. That serving right there, if the cam is on a tilt, that serving will kind of grind down that. You won't really feel it, but it happens. It causes friction, so it'll also reduce speed. So making these simple adjustments to the yoke system is going to help us center our cable in the cam the way the cam is meant to stop it. It's also going to balance up that so that we're getting a very true feed of the string back through that cam system. And honestly, the bow is going to be the safest as well, because if you have any type of hand torque and your cam is leaning or your cable is kind of right on the edge of that stop, then any of that variation that you have in your hand will make a quick impact on where that arrow is going to land. And also, if you have very excessive, you could even derail that cable or the string off the cable. So what I'm going to do is take a quick look at these. Another thing you can do as well, if you're ever worried about it, is you can lay a straight edge on the edge of your cam like this. There are lasers, but you can lay a straight edge on there, and you can see right there it's going off to the side, like I said. So if I put a little bit of twist on this side, it's going to pull that limb over. It's going to get me right back to the center. and this bow will be shooting perfect. Again, this is something that you should be aware of, not necessarily concerned about, but definitely something that you should be aware about. Remember, strings and cables are wearable items. They need to be adjusted properly. They do stretch, they do break in, and although a bow may come perfectly set up from the factory, when it's on that UPS truck or FedEx truck, getting hot, being on there for days, essentially being in a car, those things can have those slight adjustments. A shop can take care of you. Certainly an advanced bow mechanic can take care of you. But if you get those lined up, you're going to be having clean aeroflight, a frictionless system, and honestly, you're going to be as safe as you can be shooting a compound bow.